Hello, everyone. This is your friend traveling through time, and I wanted to speak with you today about something very, very serious and something that is all encompassing, and that is the mind virus that is politics. It kind of consumes people's thoughts, it consumes their emotions, it consumes their identity, it consumes their communication, and it consumes their planning. And all of these things are necessary. They need to be liberated to be a fully actualized human being. And that's what this video is about. It's about the liberation of all of you. Now, if you haven't noticed, things are kind of destabilized politically and psychologically, which is beautiful because that stability restricts us. That stability is a cage, it is an invisible wall around every single individual. And when you break down that wall, you start to understand the most powerful part of the First Amendment, and that is freedom of assembly, or more accurately, freedom of association. So we have all these labels, right? We have all these political parties, and I don't want to get into it at all, but I just want you to take a second and just erase all of that from your mind. Try and pretend that none of that has ever existed. Those thousands of hours and millions of words that have ran through your ears and into your brain and scrambled all of your neurons. Pretend and just be and imagine that none of that ever happened. Once you do that, you start to see that all there is freedom of assembly and freedom of association with the people around you. And you can build whatever you want once you realize the power of that. And it really is, the power is mathematical. So one person has, let's say, a power level of 1. 9,000 people have a power level of 9,000. And by sharing assets and sharing abilities and sharing ideas towards a common goal, it actually multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. And this is where the this is where the power of nations comes from. This is where the resources of nations come from, is this multiplicative, associative effect. But if you are a citizen out in the world, isolated, and you're not part of this structure, you're the doors are closed to you, which is the vast, vast majority of people, right? 99% of people are not truly involved with the functions of government. All of you are free to associate with each other and create similar systems and similar organizations and find power within each other. And you might be saying, oh, well, that sounds really scary because then we'll be somehow threatening to other power structures. But that's living in fear, and that's living in doubt, and that's just not true. Listen, this is 2019. People are very lax. People are very open to new experience. So to be afraid of some unknown phantom's reaction to your actions or your life's plan is so weak, and it's so sad. I mean, you're living in fear of ghosts. It's pathetic. So if you stand up straight and you find people who want to have a future and want to create something with their lives, and then you sit down in a circle and you say, okay, what are we creating and how are we creating it? And what will this structure look like? What will this organization look like? You can create anything you want in any manner you want. You are the king. It's anarcho-monarchism. It's a sandbox. It's the greatest sandbox, and no one is interested in playing in it, which is the tragedy of statism. It's the tragedy of our upbringing and this constant bickering and the constant left and right, and it's just giving me a headache just thinking about it. None of that exists. None of that is real. The state is a social construct. And you can create your own state. You can create your own social constructs. And then if people like your social construct, then your cooperation manifests prosperity and power into the world. And I don't mean power like tanks or like guided missiles or anything like that. I mean power as in like having people under your command who respect you and who are guided by you, or vice versa, having that community and having people who support you and have your back. And you could have a castle, you could have a home base, you could have a fortress, you could have a real life European castle designed as nice as you can possibly design it. And then once that idea, once that thought, once that ethereal thing that you can't quite grasp, once it's on paper, then it's just a matter of manifesting that idea into reality. And you have the rest of your life to do it. You and your 9,000 man crew. And, I mean, what is the alternative? Going to college? Going back to school? Begging for that 9 to 5 so you can barely pay your bills? It's so fucking sad. Especially in the 21st century with all of these gifts that the internet has made within our reach. I mean, the world is truly our oyster because we have the entire world at our fingertips. I mean, that used to be just a phrase. That used to be a figure of speech for hundreds of years. The world is at your fingertips. But now it's real. You have access to anything you can possibly imagine with a keyboard. And what do we do with that keyboard? We bitch and moan about fucking climate change till we're all dead. And we haven't actually done anything. And, I mean, you could just you smash on your keyboard a little bit and solve climate change. It's not unheard of. If an engineer can do it, you can do it too. And then you just need the focus, you need the teamwork, you need to bring it all together. And to expect, to convince the 530 something people in Congress that you yourself have the answers to everything and you yourself can flip the entire nation upside down and fix all of these problems that are really structurally built into our society because we've been asleep at the wheel for 60, 70 years. I just don't see that happening. Just get 1,000 people and build a castle. That's much, much easier than convincing Congress to change the entire United States with $1 trillion. AOC or whatever, God bless her, she's a congressman, that's her job. But for everyone just randomly spending your whole lives in the comment section or driving back and forth to your 9 to 5, you all need to consider the power that is freedom of association. And you need to consider the power of creating and joining new hierarchies and new organizations. Organizations that are completely focused on building and construction and networking and partying. And all of those things are the foundation of a society, and they're all things that we've completely ignored. We've completely forgotten all of those. We've forgotten networking, we've forgotten partying, we've forgotten building, right? Our knowledge and all of that. And we've replaced all of these foundational characteristics of society. We have replaced them with the dollar bill. We've completely gutted our entire society and papered it over, quite literally with paper. not even paper, digits. And then we wonder why we're suffering, and we wonder why we're failing. It's because our whole society is built on the phantom of wealth, as George Washington called it. Everyone's out here trying to make it, quote unquote, on their own, and they're trying to find fame and fortune by I don't even know how, I don't even know where. And they don't know that fortune is all around them. They just don't have access to it. And fame is all around them. They're just unknown. So if 100 people know who you are and respect you and what you do, is that fame? How about 250 people know who you are and respect what you do? Is that fame? Or 1,000 or 9,000? If 9,000 people knew who I am and respected what I did, I would consider myself famous if I had 1,000 fans, for sure. I mean, what more do you want? You want to be like as famous as Beyonce or some other celebrity? It's not possible for everyone. The math does not work out, I promise you. But so many people can be famous. If you set that bar at 25 or 100 or 1,000, the whole world can be famous at that point. But we're isolating ourselves. We're atomizing ourselves. And if everyone's atomized, then everyone becomes the same, and you don't have this dynamic range of human happiness all across the country. You just have those 5 people on top, or those 100 people on top that have all of the fame and all of the fortune. And all of these artists suffer because we have no community and we have no freedom of association or freedom of assembly. People don't understand what they're missing out on. They're missing out on the human experience itself. They're missing out on the very fundamental nature of what it means to be human. And they don't know that they're missing out on it because they've never known what it's like to have humanity. And this is why we're suffering, and this is why we keep getting drawn to politics, because we think that our leaders will solve these problems when they can't. Our leaders can't build a decentralized, million-strong network of communities and associations across the country. It's just not possible. You have to do that for yourself, and your neighbors have to do that for themselves. And that's why I'm making this video, to let people know that left and right doesn't exist. It really doesn't. I mean, yes, there's labor versus capital and all that stuff, right? But it's so bastardized and it's so twisted. And I like to tell people that the largest example of collectively owned businesses is the stock market. Those are publicly owned corporations. So corporations are the greatest example of communism in the world, because anyone can become an owner and anyone can get dividends. You don't even have to, in the 21st century, you don't even have to make a phone call to become an owner of any of these corporations and start being paid dividends. But, I mean, commies don't see it like that, They just, they want more money, and they're going to threaten people and get angry and start violence to try and achieve those ends. But the alternative is to build a community, right? That's the alternative to communism, is building a community and investing in one another, whether it be time or assets or labor, and building a town or building a city or building a house or building several houses. And because rent, right? Rent is the most damaging part of our economy right now. It's by far the highest cost of living, which is shameful, right? Gasoline and food, which should be the highest. In a healthy economy, gasoline and food would be your highest cost. But rent is our highest cost, because we stopped building houses. We stopped building housing like 50 years ago or 30 years ago. And an entire generation of people has grown up and become adults, and they don't have any new housing. They don't have any new construction available to them, and they're competing over all of this existing housing and pushing up all the prices. And the boomers speculate on the market because they're boomers and they can, and it just makes things worse. And they're not actually increasing the supply of the market of housing. So anyway, building housing, tackling housing, should be one of the first and foremost goals of any association or assembly that you create with your community, because that will give you the greatest monetary benefit and monetary relief, and then it will also make your organization much, much stronger, and it'll bring everyone together because they can really see that their lives are improving and that that they have strength, and you physically see the improvement. You physically live in the improvement that community and humanity can come together to achieve. Anyway, I think I might wrap it up there. Obviously, I was talking about Ancapistan and anarcho-monarchism for much of it, but I really, really hope that people get kind of inspired by this video, by this little rant, and they get pulled away from the sad, sad state of politics. I think Yang is like a great unifier for the left versus right crap, and I think the universal basic income is also a wonderful way to do welfare reform and reduce the tax burden on the working class, as well as lifting the working class up above sustenance level income and allow them to start building capital and start independently improving their lives. So anyway, I'm just kind of shouting out to the void here, and I hope you guys kind of see where I'm coming from and start to try and build these communities within your local friends, family, churches, anywhere you can possibly do it. You know, make some flyers or something. Anyway, God bless you all, and may I one day see you in Ancapistan.